Next, we're going to remove our rear seat, and this is pretty simple. You just get your hand down here, and then you pull this little lever. I'm going to give you a good shot of that lever here with the seat out, but you just give this a pull, and that's what holds it in place. But you actually pull that to lift your seat up, and you would pull it again when you put your seat back down. Just an FYI that you pull that out, push it down, and then release it. So we're just going to pull our seat out, and then we're also going to remove that access cover that goes over our fuel pump. So what I did here is I started up my car, and then I went and unplugged the plug-in that was going to my fuel pump to relieve the fuel pressure. Remove the positive battery terminal going to your battery. We're going to do that at this point. And now we're back by the fuel pump on the driver's side of the car, driver's side rear, and we have unplugged that OEM fuel pump wiring. So first I'm removing the OEM feed line. There's actually just kind of a little hose in there that connects. We're going to remove that all together. But first, we of course just need to disconnect it. These are not the easiest to disconnect because you really got to squeeze and then push. In this case, I'm pushing it away from me. You got to squeeze in both sides and then push it out, push it away. Next, we're going to remove this crossover tube, they call it. This basically goes from one side of the fuel tank to the other. And to remove this, it's a similar process. You need to squeeze the sides and then, in this case, make it go towards the front of the car. So give it a squeeze. As you can see, it's not the easiest thing to do. I struggled with this for a little bit too, so take your time. But you got to give it a squeeze and then push it away. And finally, the return line, that just has a clamp on it. There's not as much pressure on the return side, so that's kind of good. That makes things a little bit easier. That's why this is just more of a hose that kind of slides on, more of the barb fitting type. So we're going to loosen up that clamp and then pull off that hose. Not saying it was the easiest job in the world either to do this, but that's what we had to do to get that hose off. All right, now we got our 8mm socket, and we're going to get in there. You will want like a 1/4-inch one. These are a little bit of a tight squeeze, and even having something like this one where you can get at a better angle helps out as well. More of a swivel, that's the word I was looking for. So you should be able to loosen up all those nuts. Just if you were curious, this does only go back in like one way. These studs on the fuel tank are not symmetrical, meaning there's only one way that it's going to drop in. And with this OEM one, it has like this, hanger top plate, if you will, too. So it's kind of two separate pieces. The fuel pump hanger is separate from this metal plate that holds it down. And pulling this out is not that much fun, but there is a trick or a way to do it. And I'm going to try to remember what that trick is, honestly. But you need to get, obviously, all the fuel lines up and out of the way. That can be half of your battle, just trying to make sure all the lines are out of the way while you are trying to pull it up. You can see the lines kept pushing back above, the fuel pump as I was trying to remove this. So we're going to move those out of the way as best we can. We're going to lift up the pump itself and that metal ring too. The more you move it up, the more you should be able to adjust its position a little bit within reason. You just kind of got to make sure that you are getting it so it's not stuck on in this case, the red portion of my actual car body that kind of can catch it. So what I ended up doing here is getting this black metal ring, kind of tipping it a little bit so I could get a portion of it up out of the hole. So you can see I kind of did that here. I got that portion. One side of it is kind of up and out. And obviously it looks like I twisted the fuel pump itself a little bit too. Those hoses aren't lined up the same way they were before, so I twisted them a little bit. You can't twist them all the way because of the way things are hanging in the tank. But that's kind of part of the challenge here, is getting that black ring up and out of the way. And then, of course, continuing to lift up your fuel pump. And as you can see, everything kept pushing back in to hold it up. So part of this process is just keeping stuff from pushing back over while you lift up. And there you go. You can see eventually it just makes its way free. So you just got to be patient with this one and know that it does fit. You'll have to give it a little tip as you pull it out, of course, too, because there is that fuel level sensor on there that we need to be mindful of as well. And again, just a reminder, there is that fuel pump sock on the bottom of these. That is just a fuel pump filter. That's just one little filter. The main filter for this one is kind of built into the housing itself. That's why we ran that inline filter earlier. That's why it's pretty important to do that. If you switch to this radium hanger, you need to run an inline filter.